I'm back in Tahoe and ready to continue my Tahoe Rim Trail adventure. For all of you who watched my first two videos, you know that on day 1 I had an encounter with a black bear, and on day 2 I was too sick to continue. So I left the trail for 4 days, slept most of the time, considered not returning, and then decided I had to at least try. A lot of people have been asking me for more details about what happened with the bear, so I thought that I would make this short little video before I start my Tahoe Rim Trail hike again, and just sort of tell the story. The story of the first 2 days of my Tahoe Rim Trail experience. On the first day, within the first mile, I had my first and only bear experience on the Tahoe Rim Trail. I was walking uphill on the trail, and sort of right in front of me there was this giant granite boulder, and the trail curved around the granite boulder, making it a blind corner. I was really into walking. I had a really good stride, my head was down, I was focused, I felt really strong, and I wasn't really paying attention to my surroundings. But something inside of me forced me to stop, and I don't really know how to describe it past that, but I just stopped dead in my tracks, and I looked up. As I looked up, I saw coming around this boulder these gigantic paws. Gigantic. And all I saw was one paw, a shoulder, then a face, and I realized immediately it was a bear. I immediately froze because we were like probably 5 feet away from each other. He was so close to me that I could see the hair on his back moving. And I could see details in his face that obviously are there, you know, but like the texture of his nose and the color of his eyes. And we locked eyes. Like, he had his head down and then he brought his head up and we locked eyes. And he didn't seem to mind. He didn't seem to care that I was there. There was no like dramatic snarling or anything like that. He just looked at me and I froze. And then he put his head down and he started sniffing around on the ground. I don't know what he was looking for. I don't care. He wasn't looking at me, and that's all that mattered, right? Whew. So, I took this opportunity to sidestep behind a tree. So I sidestepped off of the trail, and everything was happening in slow motion and in fast motion. I really don't know how to describe slow motion and fast motion. I've been thinking about it for a couple of days, and I think what I mean is that it was slow motion in the sense that I was hyper aware of all of the details of the situation, but it was fast motion in the sense that I felt like I had to act quicker than my brain was allowing me to. So I sidestepped off of the trail, and I was actively trying to remember, what are you supposed to do when you see a black bear? My sister and I had memorized this little riddle or rhyme or poem or what have you. If it's brown, lay down. If it's black, fight back. Which was really cute, and we made fun of it and everything. But when you're in front of the black bear and you have to figure out how to survive, because in my mind, I've created this scenario where I'm going to be mauled by a bear. So obviously I wasn't gonna like fight back. No. And even though every single person I know said, "Are you bringing bear spray?" I didn't, because it's very heavy, and all of the rangers and the experienced people that I talked to said, "Don't bring bear spray, you don't need it." So I was having like this argument in my head about bear spray and fighting and, you know, are you supposed to make noise or not make noise? Are you supposed to get big or get small, or what are you supposed to do? This conversation that happened in my head took about 10 seconds, but it felt like a day and a half. And I finally just decided to bring my hiking poles up in front of my face in a cross. You know, I crossed my hiking poles up in front of me and I just started banging them together. I don't know why. It was just my instinct. I'll tell you what wasn't my instinct: grabbing for bear spray or using the little whistle on my my pack, the whistle that comes, the emergency one, which was what, 4-6 inches from my mouth. It did not even dawn on me to use that. And if I had had mace or bear spray, I wouldn't have reached for that either. It didn't go through my head, you know, physically to do that. What physically went through my head was to bring my poles above my head and start clacking them together, which is what I did. And thank God that bear hauled ass up the mountain and I never saw it again. What I can say is the amount of adrenaline that was coursing through my body is more adrenaline than I have ever had coursing through my body in the history of my life. I have never felt that true sense of my life is in danger and now I have to make decisions to save it. I've never been in that position. And I cannot describe to you guys what that felt like, but it was overwhelming. And it didn't just go away. I learned about this later because, of course, after I went home, I became like neurotic about learning about bears and, adrenaline and all of these things, because I felt like I prepared so much for this trail. So what happened? Like what went wrong? So I went home and I was in and out of sleep for 3 days, and while I was awake, I was Google searching, how do you survive a bear attack? What's the best thing to do? How does adrenaline affect your body? And apparently all of the hormones in your body have this balancing act, right? If you have estrogen, you also have progesterone, I think, and so on and so forth. I'm not a doctor, look it up. But with adrenaline, there's nothing to knock it down. There's nothing to even it out, because that would defeat the purpose of the adrenaline, right? If you have this adrenaline coursing through your body because you have to run away from a bear, and then you have another hormone that snuffs it out, then, you die or whatever. So I had all this adrenaline coursing through my body, and I could not for the life of me calm down. I couldn't stop shaking. I couldn't control my breath. I couldn't control my heart rate. I was a freaking mess. So I decided the only logical thing to do was to pull over on the side of the trail and remove my pack and just take a much needed break to try and center myself. I found this spot on the side of the trail that was overlooking the lake, and it was absolutely stunning. I thought, what better place to sit down and try and center myself than this amazing overlook. I dropped my pack and closed my eyes and just really tried to center myself. I was taking big, deep breaths and trying to relax my breathing and stop shaking. And all of a sudden, I don't know, 5 minutes into me trying to calm down, I heard a rustling in the bushes behind me. And it was not like a squirrel rustling or a little bird. There's some distinct sounds that you can tell, like, oh, that's a bird that just landed on a branch, or that's a squirrel that's trying to, do whatever squirrels do in bushes. This was very distinct. This was like a cat preying on a mouse. Like a creepy, crawly, slow, intentional noise. And my level of nerves shot through the roof again. Like any calming down that I had managed was completely gone. I slowly turned over my shoulder and looked, and what I saw were two gigantic blonde paws. All I could see were the paws. And I thought, well, it's not a bear, and certainly isn't a squirrel. The only thing that was rational in my brain at that moment was, it's a mountain lion. And I don't have the words to express to you the emotions that I went through when I realized that what I was looking at was a mountain lion. 30 minutes after my close encounter with a black bear. 2 miles into my 171 mile trek. And I thought to myself, I have got to be the only person in the history of backpacking that has seen a bear and a mountain lion within 30 minutes of each other. So, again, this was one of those moments where I was like, things were really, really fast and really, really slow all at the same time. That's the most bizarre feeling, by the way. So I concluded that the two blonde paws in the bushes were a mountain lion and that I was all out of fight. There was nowhere for me to run. I was on the side of a cliff overlooking the lake, and the bush that was behind me was in the direct path of my being able to escape this cliff overlooking the lake. So I decided that I was just going to surrender to whatever happened next. And that I was going to give it as much fight as possible, but whatever happened was what was supposed to happen, because I didn't know what else to think or do. And as soon as I had decided that I was going to die on that mountain, this adorable puppy dog head popped up from the bushes, and this tail started wagging behind it. Like, where this head and tail were before, I have no idea. All I saw were the paws. And this sense of relief that came over my body was so intense and so heavy that I just automatically started crying, like funeral crying, like unconsolable crying. And I was just weeping, and this dog was wagging its tail and, you know, doing these adorable dog things. By the way, it was gigantic. I have no idea what type of dog it was, but it had to be at least 100 pounds. And just huge, like one of those Irish sheepdogs or something, you know? Anyway, I'm sitting there hysterically crying, and this dog, Clover, his two owners, his two people, walked up. And of course they look at me and they're like, oh my God, what happened to you? And I'm so hysterical, I can't even talk. I'm just blubbering away. Like, there was this bear, and then the dog, and then there's the feet, and those mountain lions. They were like, what can we do? I mean, looking back on it now, 5 days later, I can laugh. But at the time, like, I couldn't even watch the video of me reacting to the bear until probably yesterday. It was too much. So they do their best to calm me down by telling me all these bear stories and how the bear never attacked anyone, which wasn't helping. But I really appreciate the fact that they were trying. And they went about their way, and I started walking again. And it was pretty much at this point, 2 miles into the trail, that I decided that I had bitten off more than I could chew. And this was probably the dumbest idea that I've ever had. After I decided this was the dumbest thing that I had ever tried to accomplish in my life, I got back on the trail and continued walking. Because, quite frankly, I'd worked too hard to give up now. And I felt like, even though I couldn't calm myself down, I felt like I'd get over it soon. So I'm walking on the trail, maybe 5 miles into it, at this point. And I'm not feeling 100%. I gotta tell you, I'm wiped out. I'm tired. My stomach doesn't feel well. But I found my groove. And I was hiking well and quickly and intentionally again. So I start walking down this amazing part of the trail that's just really open. There's a lot of trees, and it just feels really good. You know, I was in the rhythm. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, this guy approaches me from behind and passes me, which is fine. I don't care being passed, but he was like a goddamn ghost. I didn't hear him until he was passing me. And it freaked the living... Now, I'd already been a hot mess because of the bear and the mountain lion, and now the rapist was up on me. Of course, all of these fears came from my relatives, my loved ones, my friends, expressing concern about me hiking as a solo female hiker. But what I didn't realize was that I had been, I guess, listening to them, because when all of this happened, it just sort of solidified that they were right and that I was going to die on this hill. As soon as this guy passed me, I whipped around and said something along the lines of, "Holy shit, you just scared the crap out of me." And he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to." You know, I know he wasn't doing it on purpose. He was just trying to hike, but he just scared the crap out of me.
So what's the point? The point is that I didn't go into this hike preparation scared of bears, mountain lions, and possible rapists. I went into it thinking that I was really, really well prepared and that I had learned as much as I could to be safe around these potential risks. But after listening to friends and family for so many months ask me whether or not I had bear spray or mountain lion deterrent or a knife to ward off a potential threat, it's kind of started to get into my head. And I did go onto the trail that first day really, really scared for my safety. So when the bear happened, and then the dog who I mistook as a mountain lion, and then finally the hiker who came up on me while I was already in a state of panic, it was just too much. I really think that I was sick because of a combination of altitude sickness and adrenaline sickness, if that's even a thing.